Okay, part 2 of the podcast. So this part is going to be comparing all three of the empires. So what common elements did the Ottomans, the Safavids, and the Mughals have? Okay, so obviously they're all gunpowder empires, which means their empires were based on military conquest. What Mr. Rodriguez is in here and he's staring and he wants to say something, but he's being whatever about it. So for all of them, the prestige of their dynasties was dependent on the piety and the military power that their ruler could project. And so this is why they're all using Islam to justify their rule. They're all Turkish nomads. So just like everybody else that has come before them and conquered and set up stuff, they're very well were developed in the steppes. And so this is how, using cavalry, they were able to go in and initially conquer the areas where they were in. Women, go figure, were banned from all political activity in all three empires. However, Suleiman did have a concubine named Hurrem Sultana, who her name before she converted was Roxolana. She is Ukrainian. And as his concubine, she convinced Suleiman to murder his eldest son in favor of her son and put her son on the throne. Yay, women getting stuff done. Are you laughing at their names? I don't know how to say that. Okay, as far as agriculture and trade, American crops really didn't affect them like it did Europe or China. The only thing they're importing is coffee and tobacco. Coffee houses become a real big thing in these gunpowder empires, and a lot of people did not like coffee because you would have coffee houses where people would go and sit and relax and smoke and drink and do all this other stuff, and there just was not as much morality, and so they didn't like that. And population growth is kind of steady. It's just dependent on how much territory they gain and lose. And primarily they are trading with the English East India Company, the French East India Company, and the Dutch East India Company, or the VOC. Please remember that the VOC is the Dutch, so that y'all don't forget who those people are. Like I said, to a degree, they are all religiously tolerant. The Ottoman Empire had Christians and Jews. The Safavids, because they're Persian, have Zoroastrians. They're still a thing. They haven't gone anywhere. Christians and Jews. The Mughals probably had the biggest diversity with Hindus, Jains, Zoroastrians, Christians, and Sikhs. Akbar was the most religiously tolerant. He had problems with Christianity, but he was still tolerant of them. And then, he tries to do his syncretic religions. And he even gets rid of the jizya tax, which was the tax that everyone who was not a Muslim living in those empires had to pay. Capital cities, the Ottomans have Istanbul, that they took from the Byzantines. So that was Constantinople. They're redoing the Hagia Sophia as the Hagia Sophia, which was a mosque. Isfahan was the Persian city, and then Akbar has his city. For the Mughals, really, with their architecture, you need to know the Taj Mahal, which was a mosque, not a mosque, sorry, a mausoleum for his dead wife. Eventually, all these empires start to decline. If you heard a voice in the background, that's Mr. Smith walking down the hall. The Ottoman princes become lazy. They try to isolate them all in the palaces, especially the princes, to keep them sheltered so that you don't have a coup. But then they're sheltered, and then they become incompetent, and then they're unstable, and that just compounds the problem. Also, the fact that you had multiple faiths in each empire and religious tensions become a big thing. The Safavids start persecuting other Muslims because they're in the minority, and then they start persecuting non-Muslims, so religious persecution becomes a thing. Also, they just all kind of get complacent with themselves. The Ottomans and we'll get more into this in period 5 when we see the Ottomans. But nobody really wants to change. The Islamic empires are less interested in the outside world. They don't understand what's going on in Europe, which is why Europe is going to kind of blindside these 3 empires when they start to take over. I mean, Europe starts to dominate trade. They're all falling behind in technological development, and they're not getting involved in the silver trade, which at this point is the currency that's driving everything. So they kind of shoot themselves in the foot. They could have done well, but they don't. And like I said, this is all the stuff I just said. So that's the Islamic empires, and then we will get into period 5 next, which is all kinds of messy.